So our first guest in studio, we have John Jack.
Hey,
Mr. Jack, thank you so much for getting up early and coming in here.
it's
And
my pleasure.
it is absolutely my pleasure having you. It's
Thank
our
you.
pleasure.
Same here.
And Jack, I don't want to tear a name up. Everybody knows that I'm really bad with names.
Yes, so am I.
Can you? You are too. Okay. So if you could come up to the mic just a little bit, and can you pronounce your last name correctly for me?
Necroto.
Necroto. Now y'all understand why I wanted him to do it because I was going to chop that up. I was going to chop it up. And then we have Mr. Leo. Okay, Leo.
Hey, good morning.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing excellent. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is a pleasure to have you there. See, I just hear that. I hear that water. When I hear your voice, it makes me want to go on vacation.
It's that island
It's
accent.
that island accent, yes. Okay, and if you don't mind saying your last name correctly for us.
Lightbourne, Leo
Light
Lightbourne. Ye-
Lightborn.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you so much for being here and getting up early
it's a
and just
pleasure.
it is our pleasure. And then of course, Mr. Justin Belong. I know that name. He is faithful. He has been with us since we first decided to have a man's perspective. He was actually the first guest on this segment every month, and Mr. Long is here. He is pouring in and he is feeding. So, as I said, I am going to step back and allow the men to take this show on, and I'm gonna try. To hold my mule.
All right, all
There
right.
you
So
go.
let's get to it,
Get
gentlemen.
to it.
Awesome.
Brother
So,
Long, tell people a little bit about yourself. You have your five key points about yourself here. Can you express a little bit about those?
Yeah. First off, my first one is jealous because Leo Lightbourne has got a cool accent and a cool name. So, as an author, I see that name. I'm like, man,
I
I was born to
appreciate
carry a sword and
I
fight dragons.
I appreciate you, brother.
So that's fantastic. I got a little bit of name envy going on right now. No, my name is Justin Long, and I am an author and a business owner and a guy that's on a path of healing from my own traumas and destructive childhood. And I am just really grateful for the opportunity to share what I've learned so far with other people and to learn from others who are on their own journeys. And I think that's the
Right.
most important thing we can do as adults is try to keep getting better at what we are.
All right. Justin B. Long. He's engaged, passionate, committed, growing,
Mm-hmm.
open
Love
book,
it.
and
Right.
bursting with potential. All right, Justin. Mr. Leo Lightbond, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing excellent. And
And
Justin,
welcome to the show, man.
it's a pleasure.
He's
It's
ready.
indeed
Yeah.
it's indeed a pleasure to be here. I share the same views as Justin in the sense that I am too on a journey of self healing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my father left when I was young, and with his absence came a lot of emotional and mental, psychological trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been on a journey of healing from that.
All right.
While on a journey, I had an opportunity to express that trauma through a book.
Mm-hmm.
I describe myself as a very open individual. You can ask me anything, talk to me about anything, and that personality has led me to the field of psychology, where I'm currently a probation and parole officer. Eventually, I'll become
Okay.
a mental health therapist in the future. So, not only am I healing from my trauma, but I'm
Mhm.
also helping other people to address and heal from their traumas as well.
All
That's
right,
awesome.
Mr. Self-motivated, open-minded, determined, and,
Yes, yes,
and
yes,
driven.
yes,
Okay. That is
yes.
Brother Leo from what island are you from there?
Turks and Caicos. A lot of people might not know it, but Turks and Caicos.
All right.
Yeah.
And we also have Mr. John Jack Necroto.
Yes.
Oh,
Necroto. All
see,
right,
he
in the
done
building.
messed up names.
All right. Mr. Necroto, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Ah, good start. First, I'm very uncomfortable.
Oh,
Way out of my comfort zone.
yeah.
All right.
All right, we got you.
So I'm an introvert by nature. So
Okay.
there you go.
All right.
And I like the visual versus the verbal.
Okay.
So
Love
Okay.
it.
I like to see people.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So for the two gentlemen that are wherever you are, I would like to see you instead of hear
So
you.
you have your phone with you there, Jack?
No, I
No, see,
haven't.
Okay.
Mr. Jack is from a he's okay. He's from our
Yes,
age group. See,
yeah,
I got this. And so,
Okay.
we don't really deal with a lot of technology. We need the younger
Okay.
generation to
All
help us
right.
with that.
exactly.
So, Mr. Jack, I got you.
Thank you. I appreciate
Okay.
it.
So
Okay.
Mr. Jack
So-
is intuitive. He's a good listener. He's empathetic, passionate, and dedicated and loving is what I see
Yeah.
here.
I thought about the loving thing. I could have put caring instead, but anyway, both of them will work.
Okay.
The world needs loving men.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Yes.
It's too loosely used. That's all.
Yeah.
It's a lot more difficult.
That's what the
to
world
practice
needs is
than-
more love. That's
Yeah.
what it
Yeah.
No, I
is.
totally agree with that
A
one.
lot more love. Yeah.
A lot more love.
All right, gentlemen. So we have heard a little bit about everyone on the show. So let's get to it. In your opinion, how important are fathers and son relationships? Starting with you, Mr. Justin Long.
Father-son relationship is so important. And I think, in my experience, anybody that's listened to me or read my books knows that I had a really, really challenging relationship with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see, friends that I went to school with that had really good relationships with their dads and the impact that had on them and just their perspective on life and people and relationships and all that. And I could compare that to my own experience where it was very antagonistic. I was on the defensive from my dad at all times.
Mm-hmm.
And I never developed the ability to have a close, trusting relationship with another man because of that.
Wow.
I've all my life as an adult, I've preferred to work for women. I can take advice from women. I can take criticism from women. I can't take it from a man. That puts me in instant defensive mode, which means that I'm attacking and trying to defend my character, my honor, and myself. And all that stems from having a poor relationship with my dad.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think that, especially as young parents, I'm the oldest child of an oldest child. And I think that when you're young in your 20s and you're trying to raise a child, you don't have any experience with that. You don't have any tools. You don't know what you're doing. And you don't understand how critical the interactions that you have with your son are. And that's stuff that most people don't ever get past that. If you don't seek some kind of counseling or professional help to recognize what happened and the impact that it had on you, you can carry that to your grave and pass it on generation after generation.
Wow.
My.
That's so true. A lot of times we don't. What happened? He went on mute. Did y'all hit something? I can't hear Justin anymore. Y'all hit something over there.
Oh, I just stopped talking.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Justin, you said something that is so true there, and it doesn't just apply. And I said I was going to be quiet, but y'all know what that happens. Y'all know how that is. It doesn't just apply having a father being absent in the home. It doesn't just apply to males. It definitely impacts females, and from a female's perspective, it does a lot of other things to us. We tend to want to look for fathers in our relationships. We're looking
Yes.
for that acceptance. So
Right.
I'm just giving it from a female's perspective. It definitely does impact us. So
Yes. So we're going to bring this question to Mr. Leo at this point. The importance of having a father and how has it impacted you, whether you had a father in your life or did not? I'm not sure. Could you express that?
Yes, most definitely. Well, my father left, as I said earlier, at a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
And that left me traumatized in the sense that I didn't know how to be a man in this world. Everything that I learned from manhood was from fellas or gentlemen who came from identical situations where
Mm-hmm.
their fathers wasn't present in the home. And I hear Justin and also Vail talk about the impact it has on women and themselves, but we have to look at the impact it also has on society. when a male like me enters society with no sense of identity, no sense of what his role is. And we see this a lot in the prison system, where 90% of the inmates are fatherless, and our 90% of the inmates come from fatherless situations, or situations where the fathers wasn't in the home. I as a probation officer work with these individuals, so I see firsthand how if you're not getting mentorship, if you're not getting a blueprint on how to be a man, a provider, play a role, how you would just be idle and be led to anything. You know, without a father, you're unrooted, and a tree without roots can go in any direction. I would say a father roots you, he grounds you, because he teaches you lessons that he's learned from his experiences with life.
So Leo, I heard you say that you were brought up in a fatherless home, and you were kind of raised by individuals that were like-minded.
Yes.
So what came into your life to give you a sense of direction, to get you going and get to manship, should I say?
I've been fortunate in the sense that life gave me a bit of luck, in the sense that I had a best friend.
You were kind of the blind leading the blind coming up.
Right.
Right.
And I was fortunate to have a best friend whose father was in the home. Okay. And I spent a lot of time in his household, and eventually his father saw the light in me, and he took me under his wing, and he taught me a lot of things about manhood. And he did it in a way that was intellectually stimulating, in the sense that he would actually ask me these type of phrases that would make me think. You know, it wasn't a direct approach; it's very indirect, and that helped me, because I would go home and I would ponder on things he says, and I would question things, and I would go back to him. And so he's helped me a lot with understanding how to be a man, or what a man should do. You know, unfortunately, I still had to learn. I wouldn't say it's unfortunate, but I still had to learn through my experiences how to execute the things that he was telling me.
Yes.
And I'm still learning. You know, I'm still learning how to be a man, and how to form healthy relationships. And one day I will get it. You know, it's not a process that's overnight. It's a process that requires deliberate action. You know,
unfortunately, you know, we all learn from our different experiences of life, and if we could just be a good listener, we wouldn't have to experience some of the things that we have experienced through life. If we had someone to speak to us that we could listen to, should I say.
What I think about, and I'm sorry, I have a little more information on Mr. Jack that can, Mr. Jack, you want to tell them a little bit about what you do? And I know I said I wasn't going to take over this, but
I was going to go to
I know it wasn't that, but Mr. Jack brings a different perspective in through his. Go ahead.
I'm glad to.
Yes.
So I'm a LPC, LCDC therapist. Focus on trauma, PTSD, depression, anxiety, substance use disorder. Have had experience working with families. I worked in a treatment center for a number of years, and now I'm private practice. So I have a lot of background as far as that goes. I have my own personal story that is integrated in that. So this is very dear to me as far as the topic. I also was a teacher prior to this. So I've had few careers. Okay.
And the reason I put him on the spot to bring him in, because we actually have someone, a therapist here, that as we are talking through the trauma of our experiences, and we have someone listening in that may want to chime in or have a question answered, I wanted to let everyone know that we have someone licensed here that can speak to that. So speak to those issues. So I'm gonna fall back again. All right, then. And if you want to ask Mr. Jack one of the same questions.
Well, I'm gonna go to another area with Mr. Jack and getting his perspective on why do you believe abusive parents and fatherless home has become the normal.
Well, I don't know if it's the normal.
Yeah. What
I think
what
it's
is
more,
contribute, should I say, to the massive amount
let me backtrack a little bit. So I grew up in the East Coast, Beatrice Lane, with a dad that was a World War II vet. So you know, people that had parents that were through the great generation, so to speak. You end up having, you know, when I look back at it, I was not that far from the war when I was born. Okay.
Oh no, I said our age group. Now don't put me there. I'm just
So what I'm getting at is that I never realized basically, and you know, the soldiers that came back from the war, the PTSD wasn't an item. So long and short of it is that that war was in our house.
Okay.
We might have looked good on the outside, but on the inside, there was a lot of difficulties. So I think trauma, to answer the question, is somewhat generational, okay, and it's been around a long time, forever. I think the current situation to me is, and I'm very passionate about this part, is that the family system has totally deteriorated.
Yes.
And I've, you know, I'm part of that. You know, I divorced 19, 20 years, and I have 3 children.
Okay.
They're not children, but
they're still yours.
They're in their 30s, late 30s. So, and unfortunately, I became my dad, and so you know, I didn't know better. Somebody had referred to learning what you're taught, what was modeled, and so I was part of that problem for quite a while. But that being said, I think the family system has deteriorated. Divorce is basically something that should be an exception, not the rule. I think it's much more prevalent that way. The lack of spirituality, faith-based, to me,
Amen.
I think that is critical. I think people are without an oar, without a rudder as a whole. I taught at a Title I school for a number of years, and so I had seen, you know, what happened in that environment where basically the families were single parent, that whole cycle of how that looked. And I think we're off our axis. We're off what's really important.
Yes.
And it takes a commitment. You know, you really have to be committed to the deal. And it's not the way today. It's you know, it's basically instant gratification kind of thing.
Don't make me shout over here.
That whole microwave.
that want it right now. And
I'm sorry?
I said, don't make me shout over here because it's so true. You know, so many of us want it right now. And we're not willing to put the work in. And it's truly a process. It's even with raising our children. We want them to immediately, we're putting them in all of these activities. He has to be at the best school. He has to be the best. And you don't realize the pressure, the unnecessary pressure that you're putting on a child starting out the gates, you know, and there go all the other issues that come along with that.
I learned something when I was going through spiritual direction formation. A presenter had mentioned about the mistake that we've done as parents, my generation, is that we've tried to make our children happy.
Yeah.
And I heard that. And my kids were already out of the house at that point. And I thought to myself, that was probably the biggest mistake. Even though there was other things I did that were poor, horrible, that was the worst when I think about it, as far as really giving that sense of identity, allowing them to explore, self-discover, build up their own self-worth, all those traits. When you try to keep making people happy, it doesn't work.
It does not work.
I saw it in the classroom too.
Yes.
You know, the whole in the atmosphere was that we had to make these kids happy. Don't have them fail. You know, that whole idea of always passing them.
Yes.
It's like
That's a whole nother conversation.
it
Yes.
sure is, but it does relate to the male, and
Yes.
it does relate to the family system.
Yes.
And it does
Right.
relate to
It does.
the outcomes that we're seeing in society today. You know, it's everybody has a story.
It
You know,
does.
my
For
thing.
sure. Yes.
Yes.
So true.
So,
Well,
Mr. Leo, in your opinion, what do you think that drives men to leave their homes with their wives and their children?
wow.
That's a
Wow.
deep question.
Wow.
Well,
Wow.
I'm trying to reach into your thoughts.
You know, I would
'Cause you
ride
come
on the
from
sentiments
situation yourself.
of the licensed therapist in the room,
Yeah.
Mr. Jake, in the sense that it's generational trauma.
Uh-huh.
It's generations of not having good role models, not having a good example of how to manage a household or be in a relationship.
That's right.
Or even govern with equality, because we also have to be conscious of the fact that society has shifted from the patriarch, and it's now searching for a sense of balance. You know, we've lived in a society that's been patriarchal for generations, centuries, and now a shift occurred in the 60s, 70s, and now we're learning to coexist with our lovers, as opposed to us just being the man of the house. We now have to look at a equality model of governing our households, and this could cause a lot of dissonance, and because we've grown up with the old model of relationships, whereas, you know, is what we say goes. We don't know how to have healthy relationships as men. So it's generational trauma coupled with the shift that society is currently in, where we're shifting more from the patriarchal view to more of an equality management style of the home.
Mm-hmm. Now, in your opinion, Justin, do you contribute the lack of education thereof being a part of the
Absolutely.
problem?
Yeah. I think, you know, Leo just said it. Like, when you get in a relationship, if you haven't had someone teach you how to be in a good relationship, you don't know what you're doing. You know, I grew up watching my parents fight about everything, fighting about money, fighting about decisions. Like, it was always a struggle. And so when I became adult and I met a woman that was willing to put up with me, that's what I knew how to do. I knew how to yell at her. I knew how to try to force my opinion and my way, no matter what.
Yeah.
And that is not a quality relationship. That was as unhealthy as it could be, you know. And in my case, you know, add a lot of alcohol into that, and then you know that takes away all of the breaks.
In
You know,
itself.
when you feel like you're going to say something, you don't have any breaks in there when you're drinking, and that adds a lot of trauma to the relationship. But it also, when there's kids involved in that, they're watching that. So that's that generational cycle occurring again. This is how mom and dad handle that. They get drunk and yell at each other, and you know, thank God I didn't raise any children when I was in that phase of my life, because I think I would have contributed to that times 1,000, because I had no idea how to even be wrong and allow someone else to win a conversation or a fight or an argument or something, because you know, I never saw that. And I felt like if I back down, that's me giving up my sense of who I am. And you know, everything is riding on that because it's so fragile to begin with.
Wow.
So I really think that it's so important to have good role models so that you understand what you're trying to do with yourself.
My Lord.
Well,
Go ahead, Miss Val.
You know, y'all know I want to jump in. I'm trying, but this is so good. I think that, and I have to ask this question from a man's perspective, but anyone can take this question. When you have that unspoken trauma, can you tell me how does that play into a relationship from dating, just trying to date, determining which woman, just dating? I mean, I want to know. You're looking for a woman, you have unbroken trauma, but at the same time, you want to get out there on a dating scene. Just help me Help me make that make sense, because then most of the time you're meeting someone with unbroken trauma as well. How do you navigate through that?
Well, I'll go into that a little
Okay,
bit if I
thank you.
could. One is going back to the relationship structure today, as far as the traditional way versus the contemporary way, if you want to put it.
Mhm.
I think there's a problem with that, to be honest with you, because you know there's a natural thing, nature nurture thing. I'm sorry, and I think a male and a female in general or as a whole are two different people, and we have to recognize that male has different traits, different behaviors that are kind of very, very natural to them, as well as a woman. And so I think as far as the male role goes, I think we've lost a lot of our role, and to a fault. And I think that's very critical. As far as relationships,
But you said something. You said y'all have lost your role. Why? You
because I
can't
think
just move past that. That's
yeah,
a good
no,
one.
I was wondering too. Yeah.
I think we've allowed it because the trend is to keep pushing the envelope where, I think basically male, female have lost their sense of identity as far as who they are. And it's basically been challenged by a lot of outside influences.
Wow.
I think there's a value in a male being a patriarch of the family. I think there is a value in that. It doesn't mean you don't co-parent. There's a difference between that. Parenting is supposed to be co-parent, both people. And so that's important. So we can learn from, some of the deficiencies or difficulties our parents had, but there's a lot of value in those things. And I think, society is people have not changed over thousands of years. I'm sorry.
They haven't.
The culture, the times have changed, but people haven't changed. And I think there's importance to get back to that.
The behaviors have changed, but not the people.
Right. The times have changed.
Yes.
So we're in a setting like this
Yes.
versus something else. But basically, people have been people.
Yes.
I mean, we're all the same.
Yes.
To me, that has not changed. As far as relationships, I think people unhealthy attract unhealthy. And
Yes.
so,
That's it right there.
So the problem is, in large, is that mental health is something that sits underneath that basically is never really looked at. And until you maybe get to a point where there's a lot of pain or something along those lines that force you to or encourage you to seek help. But society in general, you go, look at news items at times, and there's this story going out there, and the mental health piece of it is totally ignored or disregarded. And you can see it over and over again. And I think that's a big play in why people, relative to your question about male, female, is that the unfortunately people get in relationships that are not ready to be in a relationship. I know after I got divorced, I used to tell people I didn't know how to have a relationship. Now, I was married technically 24 years, 23 when we got separated, but legally. But the point is that relationships are a lot more than just kissy face, huggy bear.
Yes.
So like it's sort of like you go to
at
bed.
some point that stage is going to fade away.
You go to bed. You go to bed with a 10, you wake up with a 2.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And vice versa.
Oh yeah, exactly. So that's the point. You have to look at the difficult parts as well as the good parts, and there's a level of perseverance that has to take place, and you have to really kind of grind at it and all that. And so
Okay.
I don't know if I answered any of the question.
I think you did. I know you did. It was great. Again, I'm sorry. I'm gonna sit down.
No,
Justin.
that's okay.
Okay.
I want to agree with you. Somehow the dynamics have changed a bit. We come from a generation where a man went out to work and the woman was at home taking care of the kids. These roles has changed drastically these days. In most homes, the woman is the money maker. and and so there's a different role, you know, for the male. He's not so as dominating as in primitive as we used to be, say.
And I think that also goes back. I think that plays into one's view of what a man is supposed to be, because I think that if we go back to it, the woman was always the helpmate. She was always still working. She was still working around the home. She was still working to provide. She was still doing a great deal of work, but what she did really brought no value to society. It wasn't seen as a valuable tool. It was more seen at the man going out working.
But actually, it was the most valuable thing for the family at the time.
Yeah. So, and again, women going out working, I think we also shouldn't devalue the man that stays back home. That makes less money. I think one of the things that my husband and I always said, and I'm just so grateful. And I know he probably going to kill me for saying this, but we used to always.
This is the Love and Victory Show. We have candid conversation. We speak truthfully.
Yes.
And honestly.
Yeah. One of the things that we always said early on in our relationship, I think back to when we were making moderate amount of money, he would say, if you're making $5.50 an hour and you're making $7 an hour and I'm making $7 an hour, we make $14 an hour. So we would always look at what we were making as one versus this is your money and that's your money. And I think that, so we never devalued. I never devalued my husband. He never devalued me, because it was always lifting each other up. So I know that kind of got off track, but I think that does play into
the households.
Yes,
that's true. That's true. Because a lot of women today buy into the myth of making the money over the man, and her role has changed. She now devalues the man
because may not be making the same amount, or he may not be out doing what she's doing, but again, he completes you if he's a man.
Right.
So how much he bringing in the house, you shouldn't look and measure him being a man based off of how much he's bringing in the house. I think it's what value is he bringing to the home. Be more important.
I would like to take a different point on this.
Go ahead.
Not the monetary point.
Yes.
But what children want the most, what I've learned, is they want their parents to be present.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
And level of unconditional love. That doesn't mean you don't have boundaries. So when you have both parents working, all right, from that point, there's an absence of parenting in the home. So, in my first marriage, we were two ships passing in the night. All right.
Wow.
A lot of ways, it was a single parent home, even though there's two parents in the house. And that disruption, to me, if I was to do it again, I would.
Let's hold that thought, because I want to take a quick commercial break.
Okay.
And I want to come back to that, what you're talking about right there.
Because that is a very good word. We'll be right back. We're going to take a commercial break and hang in there. Don't go anywhere. All righty. We are back. Blessings after blessings. After blessings.
So before we left, we had Mr. Jack talking a little bit, and we want to dive a little deeper into Mr. Jack. You've been married for 24 years.
The first marriage.
Oh Lord, have mercy.
And the second marriage, we're approaching 12.
12 years. Okay, you're still in
10.
there.
You better get it right.
I know.
Get it right.
We're gonna go into your 24-year marriage at this point. And you have how many kids with?
Three
kids with this one.
39, 37, and 36.
Okay. These are grown folks now.
Yes,
sir. So having said that, what do you think contribute to, and this might help somebody out there that might be in the same situation. What do you think contribute to the situation of making the decision to divorce? And part B is, what do you think could have been done to keep the marriage?
Okay, that's a very big question. So I have to
Try not to take the full hour on it.
No, I don't mean it that way. So somebody mentioned about alcohol. My sobriety date is 6/27/97. So Lord willing, I'll be in recovery 25 years this June.
Amen.
So one is both my spouse, both my former wife and myself brought in unresolved issues that we had personally. I had mine and she had hers.
From your youth.
From childhood. So
Yes.
I'm very big on child of origin situations. So they kind of give me a snapshot of what's going on with the client, myself. So you have to kind of look back at that, and you can kind of get an idea of how you see the world. And so when you look at relationships and the question of male meeting, people getting together, a lot of times that's unresolved. That's not even addressed, especially when you're young. You have no idea.
That's right.
I had no clue whatsoever.
Okay.
So that.
But you managed to live it 24 years though.
Well,
so.
we survived.
Yeah.
And there's a difference.
Okay.
Living and surviving, two different things.
Okay. All right.
You just when you say survived, if you can break that down, because it coexisted, and you want to break that down.
Well, I started to learn how to survive when I was a child. Okay, so in other words, the home I grew up in was a matter of getting by with the craziness. Okay, and so it just continued on.
So nobody actually ever grew.
We weren't
maturity,
right? Exactly. We weren't mature.
Yeah.
Okay. We were professionals, or we worked. We were, we were parents. We had children. All those
things.
Factors. I had reflected back and said, when I look back at my early adult life from parenting and marriage, is that I should never have gotten a driver's license. Never should have been given the right to vote. I should have never been a right to have a family. Only because when I say that is that I wasn't prepared.
So you didn't have the right to even exist.
Well, what you didn't say is
it's not that. It's the fact that I wasn't in the right place.
And that's exactly what I was going to say.
I have a question.
Yeah, jump in there.
And this is directed to Jake. I've started my work 3 years ago, working on myself and really putting my traumatic experiences out there. And a lot of times I got asked the question, Leo, you're such a great guy. Why aren't you dating? And my response is always, I'm still addressing my traumas. I'm still dealing with my childhood traumas. How do you know when to date when you're in that state, or when to start to when should you start to be open to a relationship, dealing with the traumas that you're dealing with? When is the right time to start? Is my question to you.
Wow.
That's to Jake or to who?
Jake.
To Jake. He's the professional.
Jack.
Jack.
Sorry, Jack. Sorry about that.
I've had several nicknames. So Nancy, for me personally, is when I started to feel comfortable in my own skin.
That's right.
And so I'll be honest with you. I was taught that basically, if you want to learn about yourself, is being in a relationship actually helps you learn about yourself, because if you do it right, you're going to look at your side of the street. So it's a question. It's an ongoing process. I mean, I've been at it a little while now, and I can tell you it's never ending. And so it's okay. But the idea, if you're committed to looking at what's underneath, and your partner is willing to look at what's underneath, then you're going to be in an okay place. It's when the problem is when basically neither partners are looking at their stuff, their underneath issues, whether it's trauma, depression, anxiety, whatever those underlying struggles they might have. And I think that's a big key. I think a lot of people are not self-introspective as far as what's going on.
Yeah, I think
that's my I guess my answer.
Yeah, I'm gonna dive in on that one also. Yeah, you have to get to a place to repeat everything what you just said, Jack. That you have to get comfortable with yourself, and you have to you got to keep getting up every morning, and realize that the fact of the matter, you're never going to have it all together. Perfect, should I say. You're never going to get to that place.
Well,
so you're constantly
God, we're not God.
Right. So if you're looking to be this perfect individual before you start dating, you're never going to date.
Exactly.
Right.
Thoughts on that?
You're not going to learn how to live.
Right. So you just got to keep getting up every morning, and we got to just keep on, just keeping on.
Exactly.
I think with that, I appreciate that, but I know that I see Justin sitting on the edge of his chair.
He's ready. Yeah.
Give it to me, Justin. I know you got something really wise and profound that you want to say here on that.
Don't set me up for failure now.
I got you. Come on.
No, I think for me, in order for me to be in a successful, healthy relationship, I had to wait and grow past the point where I stopped hating myself.
There you go.
And, if I can't accept myself and love myself, then there's no way I can allow someone else to accept me and love me. I just don't have that capability.
It's just that simple.
It took me a long time. I was probably 7 or 8 years sober before I got to the point where I didn't hate myself anymore. And that took a lot of work and a lot of growth and a lot of, just self-discovery, figuring out who I really am and shedding all the layers that I had put on trying to impress other people and make them accept me. But, I had to get rid of all that and discover the real Justin and decide that guy is okay and that he's all right. And I didn't necessarily love myself when I started dating, but I didn't hate myself anymore. And that made all the difference in the world with the people that I found attractive.
Wow.
Okay.
So this is the Love and Victory Show with Val, where we do have very, very candid conversation. And if you're listening to the show today, you're listening to a bunch of men that have been on drugs and alcohol, including myself. The voice you're hearing is one of the main contributors.
Dysfunction, right.
Yeah. So there is hope. If you listen to the gentleman on the show today, you can overcome the drug and the alcohol and the trauma that's in your life that forced you made you make the decision to start doing the drugs and alcohol, should I say.
That's right.
There is hope at the end of the tunnel if you want to look into the light to go forward in your life. So there is room for growth in that aspect. Brother Justin, I'm finna come to you right now. Let me put my glasses on. There's a question reared and geared, especially for you, from our very own Crystal, I believe.
Crystal or Stephen.
She said, would you rather have lived without your father than to have to go through the negative experience that you had to go through in life?
Yes, that is a hard question.
Yeah. You got this. You got this.
The short answer is what?
The short answer is I don't know. I really don't know. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. I've tried to turn this into like a script for a fiction book and figure out, what is the outcome of any of these various situations. And the thing I keep coming back to is that I had to experience all of the things that I experienced in order to become who I am. And I really like who I am.
Talk now.
I think it's so important to appreciate the negative experiences that we have and use them as frames of reference and growth points. If I say it all the time, if I had a perfect existence, I would have no way to appreciate the amazing life that I have today. You know,
All
I needed to
right.
walk through
All
the
right.
fire.
Preach it, my brother. You preach it.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right, Mr. Leo, I see you over there. That same question coming back at you, and I want to make sure everyone understand that is Stephen's question from my team.
Okay, all right.
So
Okay.
Stephen is another from a male's perspective. So answer that question too. Leo.
Well, I guess it would be phrased differently because my father left.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So that question would be if he was present, correct?
That's right.
Correct. Correct.
At
Man,
what age did your father leave? I mean,
4,
you was
about 3, 4 years old.
4
3, 4
years. Yeah.
years old, so
Hmm.
you
I
kind of
actually, I actually remember the day he left the home. Like it plays in my mind a
yeah.
lot. You see,
Let's talk
That do
about
the
that
same to me
before,
also.
because this is something that you need. Yeah. Go
because
ahead.
So
he
being
was, he
at
was.
I'm sorry, being at 3, 4 years old, did you? I mean, is your father around
Yeah.
right now? Is he still
I
in
just
your life?
connected. I just connected with him last year for the first time.
Wow.
Wow.
For the first
So
time last year.
having been 3 or 4 years old, I mean, I think I'm sure that's traumatized you,
For
but you
sure.
never got an opportunity to even know who he was,
Yeah. He
other than
No.
now he does.
other than.
Not, well,
But
now right there. Well, 3 to 4 years old. You're confused.
yeah,
And the first thing you start to think about is it's a me issue.
hmm
Because he was there, and for the first 3 years of my life, he was present. He was a
hmm
provider, and one day he just left and never came back. And
wow,
and you automatically think it's you. And so what you do, you start to overcompensate in your relationships and in your interactions. You become a people pleaser, and that's who I was. And
hmm
That's
you
right.
you, you don't know yourself in that state, because you're doing everything to win people's approval and make sure that they don't leave in the same matter that your father left.
wow,
And I spent years in that state, years not living for Leo, years of not being living for my happiness,
hmm
Yes.
which is so important. And writing my book and putting myself out there and doing shows like this, it really helped me to open up more. And
hmm
um, meeting my father last year, I thought if it was me 12 years ago meeting my father, I probably would have punched him in his face. That's
yeah,
anger I had.
Hmm.
okay,
But when I met him last year, it was like, when you get home and your dog is wagging his tail uncontrollably. That was me when I saw my father. Like, I
right,
literally was so happy, and we embraced and we talked. And I it was so beautiful, because it was like looking in the mirror. Like,
yeah,
At yourself.
the first time I've seen somebody I can relate to. Like, I look like people on my mother's side of my family. Yes, I
hmm
have resemblance to uncles, but to see someone that actually looks like you
yeah,
and you're staring at that in the face, it was
wow,
it was transformational for me. And ever
yeah,
since that interaction, my confidence has been a bit higher,
okay,
and we're continuing to build that relationship. If I had
that's
had
good.
him in my life, I wouldn't have been the person I am today if I had my
Mhm.
father in my life. And there are so many people that have reached out to me and told me that my story has inspired them. And
Mhm.
there's so many adventures I've been on because I didn't have my father. I had to work a bit harder, to get resources and to put myself in the positions that I'm in. And
Mhm.
that would have not allowed me to have the relationships that I've had. So I wouldn't
Mhm.
change life. I
Mhm.
would
Hmm.
accept it and embrace it, and
Mhm.
just say that it was a part of my growth and development and my journey. And it's a journey that I'm still in as I
Right, right.
now explore that relationship with him and peel back some layers and ask some uncomfortable questions to him in this process.
Man, that
So
should
I'm
have
still
been.
growing. I'm still growing through it, man. I'm still
Mhm.
growing through it.
I have a question along those lines, and of course, everyone can kind of jump in. And here's for the you met your father. He left at the age of 3 or 4, and then you got to meet him again here. Now you're a full grown man.
Yeah.
Justin, your father was in your life, your entire life. Lawrence, your father left
12.
At 12, but was still there, but still around.
Yeah.
And Jack, your father was in
He
your
was
life.
in his home too, but
Your
he
father
wasn't
was in his home, but he wasn't
He died when he was 52.
52. Okay.
So I just turned 22.
Okay. So I'm listening to, just taking in all the different dynamics of what I see as very experienced, beautiful soul men that have been through something, may have been broken at one time. How did that feel, having that father or lack thereof in the household? And I'm kind of putting that to my husband. When your dad walked out and he left you guys, how did that make you feel, still having to know that he's in the community that you're at, but he left you all? How did that make you feel? How did you deal with that?
Well, as men, we don't really deal with feelings until we actually grow up and mature a little bit and start realizing we did have feelings. At the time, I know now that it affected me drastically as I grew. When I was a child, I didn't understand the ramifications of him leaving the home at the time. So it affected me more, should I say, as an adult, when I started learning of myself. And so,
Are you saying it affected you more because then you had to deal with that unrecognized trauma from him leaving you?
Right.
It played into some of the
some of the,
decisions you made in life?
definitely, because I told him myself personally. I say, Dad, if you had took me fishing one day, hell, I probably wouldn't have been on drugs and all this stuff throughout my life.
Yeah. So in other words, just having him there, having a male there, having a
Yes.
dad there that you can
Yeah,
talk to.
it's important.
It's
It's
important.
important. It's
Okay.
important.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
All right.
And I think that speaks to most men.
Okay.
Having a father in the home, someone to embrace you, someone to tell you he's proud of you, someone
Yes.
to build you up as a man is very important. And
Validate.
not having that has a negative effect, should I say, on one's life. So
Definitely.
that's where we at it.
We have a question. We have a question from in studio from one of my staff members, Diana.
My question is, you didn't have this. So was there somebody that was able to, is it possible for somebody to step in that role, a community member? And if you did have that, were they able to not replace, but were they able to help you or guide you the way a father would have done so? If you would have had him completely present, that could go to anybody.
Oh, that was a good question.
Me personally, because I'm gonna be very brief with mine. At the age of 12, I had a younger brother, so that had me to step into this male role, man's role, should I say. I had to take care of my little brother after his mom working 16-hour shifts. So I had to divert to being the man of the house, even though I wasn't a provider for the home. I was the caretaker, making sure my little brother, very much a protector, should I say, in my life. But yes, I did have uncles, and my dad also was in my life. He wasn't in the home, but he was still in my life. And so that you mimic some of the things that you've seen throughout the time. And so,
I hear what you're saying there, but then it's kind of, to me, it's almost like you having it both ways. So you mimic some of the things. They weren't there, but he was there, and you had your uncles there, and some of the things that you mimic is what you see the males do. And so, because my husband and I have been together for 43 years, some of those traumas, I've seen those, and so and he know that I'm going there. So I've seen some of those traumas and those behaviors that traits that he picked up, But the one thing, and before I go into that, the one thing that was always a definite for him. Divorce was not an option. There was absolutely nothing that we couldn't work through. So that was a foundation. That's because his father walked away. However, we went through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Uh,
'Cause I grew up, my family was mostly males.
mhm.
Growing up, I grew up around a bunch of men, a bunch of boys, with all my cousins and brothers and friends, all males. And so this all we knew at the time.
What did y'all know? Come on.
That's
Give
all
it to
we
what
knew
y'all knew.
to be boys.
Okay, so in other words, to be boys. So there was a lot
Yeah.
of
Even the men were boys. So.
right. It was a lot of cheating.
What was it to be a boy?
Yeah. Well,
When you was a okay, let me pull the scripture out of it. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child.
Yeah.
And I did childish things. But when I became a man, I put those childish things away.
okay, very good. So what he
But a lot of
said
us don't.
for those
Yeah.
that
Justin,
don't,
go ahead and speak on that.
I'm just saying a lot of us don't put those childish things away for a long time. If we don't have somebody to help us mature, teach us how to be different, we just keep
Yes.
on being that kid.
Yeah.
Yes, so
I
true.
had the good fortune of being raised by my mother. I was raised in the church. And so I was able to tap into my faith and learn more and more about the Bible when I was recovering from crack cocaine. And so during those studies and during those times of inspiration and growth that allowed me to become the man that I am today, become a man, should I say, instead of that boy that I used to be doing the childish things, going out to parties, going out to different women, all these different things that we do as boys. And so
I appreciate it. And the reason I'm bringing that up, not to put you on the side, I know I always put people, I say I'm going to sit back, but the reason I brought that up is because most men that are broken or hurt don't want to deal with the trauma that they're putting out on someone else, or they don't see it as a problem. And
Yeah.
they don't really recognize the effect that it has on the household. And I'm bringing that out because I really want us. We have a therapist. I have some men here on the set that have been through something, and it's really important that we speak on candidly on those behaviors and how it impacts relationships and how it impacts our children and how it impacts our view on society and society's view on us as a whole. So yes, you may have drank, Justin. You may have been an alcoholic, Lawrence, on crack cocaine. Jack, you had your nemesis. And I'm sure, Leo, you had yours. But I really want us to kind of talk and dig a little deeper on that impact of that little boy. You used it well, Lawrence, when you said becoming a man, you did boy stinks. I really want to dig into that. So if you could, Justin, let's talk about the boyish things that you did before you became a man.
So much of it was just seeking approval.
Yeah.
I did not have the ability to form a positive impression of myself. I needed my dad's opinion of me in order for me to feel good about who I was. And I think, like so many, men and women, just parents in general, because of the tiring nature of having kids around you 24/7. My dad spent a lot of time invalidating my experiences and my feelings because he didn't want to deal with it and walk me through it. And when that happens day in, day out, that wasn't that big of a deal. I'll give you something to cry about. You don't even know what real pain is, et cetera, et cetera. That invalidates my feelings, and that teaches me to invalidate my feelings.
Right.
If my dad doesn't think that whatever I'm experiencing is important, it must not be that important. And even though I know that I don't enjoy the experience that I'm having, he still beat into me that he was right no matter what. And I could not question that. And so I took that as this is how we are. And, it becomes an automatic thing after a while. You don't even recognize that you're invalidating your own feelings and your own experiences. And the traumas that you're spreading out to other people become invisible to you. And so, as an adult, you know, especially as a raging alcoholic in the home, I was doing damage all day, every day, and I never saw it. And the things that did stick out that I would have that shame and that guilt over, I would just numb it down and shove it down into a corner and not deal with it. And it was a cycle, day in, day out.
Very good. We had a statement that came in from one of our viewers, and they said, "I think what happens sometimes is when a father leaves the home, I'm sorry, I want to make sure I get this correctly. When the father leaves the home, they're leaving the responsibilities that should continue whether they're in the home or not." And I think that was for when we were talking about. I think we were talking about earlier when. Dad's leaving, when your dad left you at the age of 4, and Lawrence, your father, leaving you at the age of 9. So I just wanted to make sure. 12, I'm sorry. Okay, I get it right. I'll turn it back on to you.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Oh, you remember it like it was yesterday. Okay, I'm gonna turn it back to you guys and let you all. I appreciate that, Justin. That was a great answer.
What was your...
I'm done. I've moved on. Looking back, I'll go. Looking back at your childhood, is your current adult life, can you agree or disagree that your father influence helped you become the man that you are? Anyone can take that.
Whether that's good or bad.
Whether it's good or bad. Anyone jump on that one?
I want to answer one is first about the childhood.
Okay.
The little boy.
Yes.
So, you know, back in New York, we used to play stickball.
All right.
They don't know what stickball is anymore, but we used to play. And so there is a value on the innocence that we lost as a result of the unhealthy environment that we grew up in. And I think it is important as adults that, and I know this is something that I'm working on because it is very difficult for me, is to be that little boy as an adult. So in other words, you update what it is, but you're still that innocent. You bring out that fun part, the child part. So I think that's important. The other thing is that going back to what Justin was saying, I think, and Leo, I wanted to tell you, I'm really happy for you. That is a great story, and I'm really happy that you reconnected with your dad.
Yes.
Thank you.
But you're welcome. I'm sorry, I'm having Charlie horses.
Oh God! Oh my!
So anyway,
gotta eat those bananas, man.
I didn't eat my bananas. I usually eat one every day. So anyway, for me, I behaved as I was modeled. I didn't know any better. And going back to all these questions about relationships and stuff, basically, I had to learn how to do it differently. And, you know, our parents did the best they could with what they had. You know, I was raised that, you know, your children be seen and not heard, all that stuff was the corporal punishment was a big thing, and all those factors in the environment. And that rolled over, became generational, and it was generational before my dad. And I don't even know that story. And so that's important. It's about not changing who we are, but changing some of the behaviors in that. And that's important. I don't have to lose being a man. I don't have to lose being a father or a friend or anything like that. I just learn how to do it differently. And that's the key for me. I'm more myself now, the way I was created, than the way I was before. Though that person got lost.
Wow.
That person
That's deep.
I got lost in all this nonsense, this chaos.
Wow.
You know, I was 100% depressed, angry in my addiction. Okay.
Wow.
So, you know, and that was from childhood. You know, that goes back. And so that just carried over until I stopped, you know, with the grace of God, stopped drinking, started working on myself and changing my behaviors, changing the unhealthy behaviors, the insanity.
Yeah. Tapping back into that little boy, that little happy boy.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I wouldn't even be doing this years ago. I mean, this is way out of my comfort zone. Okay. This was not possible at all. And so I think that's important.
Yeah.
And you know, my going back a little bit about the dad thing, about whether you change it or not, I wouldn't change it in the sense that was the story.
That was the story.
What I had to learn was my dad had a story.
Mm.
Okay. So everyone here's parents had a different story.
Mhm.
You know, mine grew up in the Depression and the war thing. And my dad never talked about the war.
Right.
A lot of those guys never talked about it. You never heard a thing. All I knew was 12 o'clock high and combat wasn't the war. And so the point is, I learned about my dad by wanting to learn about my dad way after he's dead.
Wow.
And I learned about where he fought in the war and what that was like. And I could understand why he behaved the way he behaved.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Makes sense.
Yes.
And
Make you more empathetic.
Deep.
It make a lot of sense because that it taps into how fathers damage themselves are not able to properly raise us up as young men, you know.
Right,
And
for sure.
the sense of your dad and my dad, okay, they didn't know.
Right.
There weren't tools out there.
Right.
There weren't tools for PTSD,
Yeah.
for combat soldiers.
No.
You know, and so, and then whatever else they experienced,
Right.
okay? And so
There wasn't tools out there for a black man trying to raise a family.
Oh, you can be candid here. Just say it. Yeah.
No,
That's true. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
We all have a story.
Yeah.
And there's a culture part to that, right? The culture that we grew up in. There's a culture within this room here.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
what that is and expand, allowing it to exist.
And just being honest about it.
Exactly.
And being comfortable with having a conversation. And that's one of the things why I enjoy having different walks of life on this show, because it's from a different perspective. You know, my perspective is not the only perspective. It is out there, and I can learn from
And
someone.
you know, I raised my boys with the fact of not hiding who I was and what I've been through in life. You know, about the drugs.
Your children,
and
all of our kids.
So that was something I didn't get growing up. Just honesty.
Well,
son, I don't make but 63 cents an hour. You know, I can't do this, that, and other. You know, but you made a choice to go gamble though with what you had.
Yes.
Trying to make more. He was trying to make more of trying to make $1 out of 15 cents, should I say?
Yes.
You know, that was his way of trying to do it. But you know, that 63 cents could be used at the house when he went in there and lost it all. You know,
Yes.
So you have any?
I wanted to go just touch on the fact that everybody here is different, right?
Yes.
But you know, the point I think we've lost today is the fact that we have similarities, not the differences.
Right.
Well, when I say difference, it's not that I'm saying we're indifferent. We're different because we may have had different experiences in life, but we are still the same.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So I think too much focus is on differences than the similarities. Is my point.
Okay.
So everybody has a story,
Mhm.
but even though it might be different story, it's very similar.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's deep. I like that.
And that's important.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Justin,
There you go.
we're going to talk about the psychological effects. Psychological effects that
Psychological effects of trauma.
no
What?
of growing up
Oh, okay.
detached
From
your father
whether he was
as
present or
a young
absent.
boy.
Okay.
The psychological effects. Let's talk about some of those psychological effects that may take place in one's life.
For me, they were tremendous. You know, as I said earlier, I lived trying to gain my dad's approval, and I never got it. But my dad was I think he had good intentions with a lot of what he was doing. He was trying to teach me to always try harder and be better. But the way he did that was by never ever telling me that what I did was good enough. And you know, we talk about our parents doing the best with what they have. I really do believe that a lot of times he did have good intentions with his discipline and he spanked me every day until I was about 13, and I think he was trying to teach me something. But his teaching method and my learning method didn't mesh with one another at all. And I think that the way that manifested itself in my life is huge and multifaceted. But one of those things was that, like Leo was saying, you become a people pleaser. You're always searching for someone to accept you and give you that stamp of approval. And I got into a searching behavior that even when I started getting that approval as adult, I didn't know what to do with it. So I just kept searching.
Wow.
Yes.
And when I finally found a woman who was willing to let me move in and put up with me, that was one of my ultimate goals, and I satisfied that goal, right? But I was locked in that searching behavior, and so the fact that she approved of me and accepted me only made me feel good about myself for a little bit, and then I had to keep searching for that again.
But let's back up a minute here, Justin.
Yep.
You was getting your, I can't say ass whooped.
But you just said it.
Oh, I mean, you was getting.
You can call it what it is.
Until you were 13 every day. What you think he was trying to teach you in that as you become an adult? What lesson you think he was trying to teach you at that point?
I really think that he wanted me to strive for perfection because that's what his dad demanded from him. We're talking about our parents' stories. I've learned a lot about my dad's story, as an adult after he was dead. And I know that his dad had demands from him that he could never meet. And I think that he felt that, this is how you parent, this is how you teach your kid to be better, is that you demand perfection and you punish imperfection. And so that's what he did with me. And, and whether it was, stacking firewood or digging ditches or pounding nails out of boards, it doesn't matter what it was. I could have done it better. And I always got punished for shortcomings instead of rewarded for the efforts that I made.
Yeah.
Wow.
That had to be traumatizing all in itself right there.
It is. It's a million micro traumas. There was never, a big giant event that warped my, the direction my life was going.
Yeah.
It was a million little things all day, every day that just created my self-beliefs.
Yeah.
Wow.
I just wanted my dad to show up. I was a sports guy. I played football, basketball, ran track. I just wanted my dad to show up to one of the events one time.
I can relate to that.
So brother Leo, tell me about some of the psychological effects you had with your father being absent.
First, before I start, I just want to thank Jack for his growth, man. He said 10 years ago he wouldn't be on this stage, but I'm happy you are on this stage because we're learning so much from your story. So thank you, Jack, for sharing that. And Justin, man, I agree with Jack in the sense that our stories are so similar. I hear so much of me and you.
Yeah.
That search for validation. Everything aligns. My story aligns with that perfectly. So I won't touch on the validation part. What I would touch on is the anger, because my father was literally a 3-minute flight away from me, and he never came. And that made me live in a state of anger for a majority of my life and within my relationships.
What kind of things you did that expressed that anger?
Anything triggered me, even at work. Anything triggered. I was just angry all the time. Like I don't know, but it was because I was suppressing those emotions, that pain. Knowing in my mind that my father could be reaching out to me and being in my life bothered me. And it wasn't until I gained enough self-awareness to know that people are the way they are because of what they've been through. And my father had to go through something for him to be the individual that he was. And it's not because of me, it's because of what he went through. And I had to understand that. And once I gained that understanding, that's when my anger calmed down, because I thought he was doing it because of me, but it's because of him. So once I gained that understanding, then the anger, went away. But it destroyed most of my intimate relationships being in the state. And I told myself after my last relationship, I'm gonna work on myself a bit more. I'm not gonna live out of that state anymore. And like I told you guys earlier, I'm still in that process.
So, Leo, did you let your dad off the hook when you seen him last year, and or did you press him on why?
He blames my mother, um, uh, and I didn't accept that. Actually, that was the first confrontation, and it almost got
Physical.
heated.
Mhm.
Not physical, but heated. And he laughed. So that was the first time we met. So it's very brief, 5 minutes, got into it, hug, whatever. And then it shifted when I asked him that same question, why did you leave? And he blamed my mother. And I wasn't having it. It's not my mother.
Yeah.
You could have been there. And he just said he had to do something, and he left. And so I took a different approach the second time we met. And I just used that opportunity to learn about him, learn about his childhood, and eventually I will build back to the point where he's comfortable to sit down with me and have that conversation. But right now, I'm taking an approach where I'm just learning about him and being comfortable around him, and then eventually we will have I will hit that question, present him with that question again. But until then, I'm just laying a few bricks, and eventually
You being the mature person in the relationship.
yes,
That's good.
yes,
Good.
yes.
Go ahead, man.
I at this point, you guys, this is really a good conversation, and I love taking it into the studio from my team that's in the studio. I like to have them because they're coming from a younger generation, and I love to have them ask questions, and so they're going to ask a question of you guys. And then I would hope that you guys would feel comfortable. Anyone can take the question if the question that they ask, and I'm going to start with Diana. She's moving over to the mic. And so whatever question that they have to ask, anyone jump in, answer the question, or everyone can answer. And then I'm going to move over to Heidi. Diana, are you mic'd up? Can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Awesome.
All righty, scoot on in over here so they can see who you are. You can get close, a little closer to Mr. Jack. Hi, there she is. Okay, what question do you have for the gentleman?
So I think my biggest question was, what was your breaking point? Like, what actually made you say, you know what, I want to become a better man? Like, what was that day? What happened that made you want to get away from, I guess, the chaos, wanting to be better? What was that day? What happened?
For me, it was 6/27/97, but it wasn't the fact that I wanted to be a man. I just wanted to stop what I was doing. And that led into me learning how to be a different man. And so I didn't have awareness that basically it was very normal or natural the way I was behaving before, because that was basically the way I was raised. So I didn't know anything different. Once I got into recovery, I started to learn that there was something different. So, and what got me into recovery was I was just toast.
Yeah.
The way I express it, I was just done.
Yeah. Sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Exactly.
That's
And
right. You're telling my story, Jack.
Yeah. To me, that's all grace, because I couldn't do it by myself. I tried that before for years.
Okay.
So I brought God into my picture in a different way than I had before. And so from that regard, that's how it changed, or when it started to change.
I think that's profound. You even have a date on that. Mine was February 1989.
Okay, very cool. Very sweet. Very sweet.
Anybody else have anything to say on that?
Oh, I think it's all encompassing right there. Is that you get to a point where you decide you can't go on the way that you are, and that something has to change. And none of us ever know what that change it could even be. Like I don't think we have the vision when we're wrapped up in that level of pain to see something else. We're just looking for something different.
Okay, great. Did that answer? Did they answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. And now I'm turning it over to Heidi. Heidi, what question do you have for him? This is Heidi. Heidi is also one of the team members. You got to slide on in here so
sorry.
they can see you. That's okay. Come on in here. There's Heidi.
Hi. I don't know.
They see you. Don't worry about it. Go for it.
Okay. I have a question for Leo. I know you mentioned it's obvious that your dad wasn't present in your life as a child. How did that? Because I grew up without a mother, and it really affected me throughout school, seeing other people go to school with their mothers. How did that affect you whenever you went to school, like growing up in like elementary, middle school, and seeing children or students getting picked up by their fathers or and their fathers being in attendance for different school events, and how did that affect you?
Good question. It's quite sad. I'm gonna say this in our communities, Caribbean communities, Afro communities, Black communities, it's a norm at this point. Sadly, so to me, it's a norm. I just thought it was normal. You know when I felt it though, was when I turned on the TV and I saw Family Matters, Steve Urkel, and the Cosby Show, and I'm like, and Fresh Prince, and I'm like, I'm Will Smith in this situation, you know, like I'm Will Smith, like I don't have a father, like that's when it hits you. But when you're in school or you're in your community, it's a normal thing. You know, that's why I titled my book, It's Not a Man's World. Like it's literally, you don't feel like you're living in a man's world when you're in our communities. It's the mom, it's moms, it's mommy, mother, the woman is the center in the Black community. Like everything we do is for them.
Mothers,
and that, it's like, and it's not, I go to majority of my friends' houses, their mothers welcome you, and there's no father coming into the room and telling the son. Like I did the only time I saw that is with my best friend's house. But majority of my friends grew up like me. Their father wasn't there, or the only thing is with some of them, their fathers were still in the community, so they can go by their dad's house. But when you go to the main house, the house that they lived in, it was mostly it was a single parent household. That's the only luxury.
Hey Leo. Hey Leo.
Yes, sir.
Hey, you never seen anyone in the community have a fight because someone talked about their dad.
Never. You go after moms. They're like, yeah. You fight.
You just say your mama to him, man. He ready to fight. Your mama. He never said anything about your mother. He just say your mama.
That's once the sentence start with your mother, it's on. To answer that question, you know, if it was my mother being absent, man, I don't know if I'll be sitting here today.
That's a whole nother ball
game. I want to take the serious and not taking anything from what you guys are saying, and even kind of saying you can't say the mama. Heidi kind of hit on something, and I want the men, the fathers, and some that are not fathers, and the therapists in here to kind of know, because I don't ever want anyone to leave and feeling a certain way, or feeling like where they are doesn't matter. Heidi, if you don't mind me kind of sharing a little bit about your story. Heidi's mother, and I'll let her go into that if she likes. Heidi's mother took her life. And so she's had to, there is trauma there, and that's my baby. There's trauma there. And so she's had to grow up. She's had her father who raised her, but she did not have a mother there. And so I don't want to make light of that. And Heidi, if you want, you can kind of share that experience, what it is not having mommy pick you up, or
It was, especially as a woman or a girl growing up, it definitely really took a toll on me. Just because I didn't have a mother figure showing me the ropes. Like, I didn't learn about a period. Like, I didn't know anything what like a period was. Like, that wasn't talked around my house, obviously, because I had my father. I mean, fortunately, I had my grandmother around, but she was a lot older and she wasn't able to do a lot of things a younger mother would do for their child. But it definitely took a toll on me as a child, just seeing other friends have their mothers, pick them up and like do stuff with them, do girly stuff. Like I didn't have that.
and she also suffered with depression. Go ahead. That's okay, honey. It's okay.
Oh,
You're in a safe environment. And I'm not pushing her to talk because she's already talked about it. But I think this morning, especially, I know my baby is a little heavy this morning because we were all trying to make sure that we get here to the studio on time because Crystal was ill and she had the bag and the keys and everything that could happen prevented her from getting here. And she called in such a panic this morning. And all I could say to her was, and she had to drive from College Station. Okay, we can't focus on that right now. Just be safe and get here and we'll get through it. And so I'm saying that to you guys, for fathers, and for men and the therapists in here, I want to make sure that this segment is not ended with us uplifting and encouraging, because you never know who's in your midst, who's going through, who's fighting through something. Today, Heidi is fighting through today, and but just the fact that she got here, and it makes me want to cry because I really do love them, and I really do care about them, and I know how much they care about me. Just the fact that she got here, she fought through it to get here. She didn't want to let me down, and you didn't, and you never could.
Thank you.
And I don't want us to end this show without us hugging her from a distance, encouraging her, because again, she is she's a tall, beautiful young lady. She struggles with how people see her. And the day she walked in my office and I interviewed her and I said, girl, you're gorgeous. It's not about how people view you, it's how you view yourself.
That's right.
And so I want us today to wrap our arms around, and the therapist that's sitting in here, if you can, give her some words of encouragement and affirmation.
Well, I didn't know that part of your story, so I can definitely appreciate the pain. I have clients that I dealt with that kind of stuff, so I can appreciate it or understand, or could not even understand, can empathize with how difficult it is for you. I think one of the things that came out of this to me is the fact of how important parents are, and when they're absent, whatever they look like. And so the importance of a mother in a daughter's life is very, very important. And I can, it's got to be very painful and difficult. And the depression is, part of the results of that absence. I go by a hierarchy, going back to what Leo said about anger. Excuse me. So anger, then fear, then shame, then trauma, then abandonment. And when you're looking at working out your story, you have to start at the bottom where your story begins. So for you, abandonment would be a big piece.
Go ahead.
Having that abandonment definitely, honestly, it's encouraged me to do a lot with my life, wanting me to push myself to do something with myself. And I've noticed, like, I'm not gonna like abash anybody with mothers, but I've noticed, like, from friends in college, they're still so dependent on their parents. I had a roommate, she couldn't even clean up after herself. Her mom would come into town and literally clean our whole apartment. It was, that was something I wasn't used to seeing. Like, I've never seen that before. But it's definitely important to have a woman figure in a little girl's life, just like it is a boy having a male figure in their life.
Totally agree.
Mhm.
And that's very, very important. And I hope you're working on, what's going on underneath as far as the emotional, the mental health piece to help you get through it. So you definitely picked up good skills. So learning how to transfer that into happiness, I don't know where you are in the spectrum of happiness.
She is real. I just, and I want to commend her just from her walking into my office the very first time and where she is today. I just see so much growth in her. And I think today was a trigger because I think she really sees me as a surrogate mother. And I think she saw herself letting me down. And all I can do at that moment was tell her, it's going to be okay. You didn't let me down.
Yeah.
We're going to get through it.
So Heidi, tell the people who you are.
Tell them who you are.
You're tall.
I'm tall.
What did you say on the last?
Affirmations we
Yeah,
practiced last.
Tell them who are you? Who are you?
I'm Heidi. I am tall. I am beautiful. I am.
What was that other one?
Oh gosh, I forgot.
You're white.
Remember?
Oh, I am white.
Okay.
Dark brown hair.
Yeah.
Tell them why you said that.
I'll tell you because I got to go to a commercial break right quick. Heidi had a problem growing up in school because she's not blonde. She thought white girls had to be blonde with blue eyes.
Yeah.
But she had this problem most of her adult life.
Young child.
So I told her to tell yourself in the mirror, tell yourself every day that you're tall, you're beautiful, you're white, and I'm not blonde.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. That's right. So on that note, we're gonna take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
Thank you, guys.
It's your main man, Brother Carter. We're back, and we're having some very, very candid conversation here. We're almost at the end of the show here, and I want to have one more question to ask to our distinguished guest here. Looking back at your childhood or your current adult life, can you agree or disagree that your father influenced helping you become the man that you are today? And I will start off with myself, and I would say, yes, I agree. My dad did play a major part in one aspect of me becoming the man that I am today. Like I said, my father left and divorced my mother at the age of 12. And so he influenced me to stay in to a marriage with my wife. And we've been together 43 years now. And I think I can contribute that to my father leaving at the age of 12. Justin, what you think on that?
My dad absolutely influenced who I became, in good ways and bad ways. Like one thing, I have a terrific work ethic, and I owe that 100% to my dad. And that's one thing that has served me well my entire life. But I also, all of my beliefs, everything that I know to be true in the world, I learned from my dad. And most of those things I have overturned and had to change my mind about those things. But part of my journey into self-growth and discovering who I am is examining all of those things and why I believe them, and being willing to change my mind about what I think is right. And I think that my dad was wrong about an awful lot of things, and that's okay. That doesn't take anything away from who I am, and it's okay for me to change my mind. I think it's important for me to be my own truth and not be my dad's truth.
Amen.
I think that right there is so profound. Being your own truth and not somebody else's truth is major, because if we're trying to live through the eyes of someone else, it's going to always be a foggy glass or a foggy window.
That's right.
You will never measure up to what you think they are, because you're only seeing them by what they're allowing you to see. You don't see the undercurrents, and you don't see what's going on behind the scenes.
Amen. So Leo, we're coming back to you with this same question. This is our last question of this today's show. Looking back on your childhood and your current adult life, can you agree or disagree that your father influenced helping you become the man that you are today? Agree or disagree?
I would agree,
Okay.
because I wouldn't be on the show if it wasn't for his absence.
All right.
I wouldn't be the person that I am today. Nurturing an open-minded mindset at an early age, simply because I had to listen a lot to other men who were teaching me how to be a man. So I had to be open to that process, and with that mindset, I've built a career with that. Being a probation and parole officer, connecting with different individuals from different backgrounds, I have to be open minded and listen a lot. So it has molded me to the man that I am, and I've enjoyed the journey so far. It hasn't been pretty. I go through my highs and lows like everybody in this room.
All right. Right.
But
That's right.
the beauty of it is that you see the growth, and you're able to share that growth with people who learn from it, and I wouldn't take that away from people. I'll be selfish to say to not share my story. That's a selfish act.
Yeah.
Because it takes away from your growth. So my father has given me something to give to the world, and I'm forever in debt to him for doing that.
Wow, it's beautiful.
And if you can point to that one thing, what would you say it is that gave you, that his influence has had? If you can just point to one specific thing in your life.
Empathy, and I think Jack, sorry, alluded to it earlier. Empathy, having that ability to resonate with people's pain and understand it. That not everybody has that. Not
Right.
every leader has that.
Right.
So to have that at this point of my journey, I'm grateful, man. Really grateful.
Amen. Amen. Jack, what you think?
Well, very much what Justin said as far as the work ethic and core values and those kind of principles. They're very much part of me today.
And if you can point to one thing that the influence of your father had in making an impact in your life, what would you point that thing to?
I had a love-hate relationship kind of thing. I idolized my dad in one way and was frustrated with the other. I loved my dad for who he was. He was a good man. He had a bark, but he didn't have a bite.
All right.
But there was carnage from some of it. But he was a good man, and they gave all of themselves. When you go, and I go back to the war, it kind of puts things in perspective. They were kids,
Going at this exactly,
and they went with full commitment, and so you can't take away that, and so I wish he took care of himself. I wish he would have taught me how to take care of myself. That didn't happen, but he gave me who I am to figure that out eventually. And so I would never trade my parents for anything in the world, and
that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
That's it in a nutshell. Well,
so where you want to take over?
I want to take over now. Yeah, Justin, don't say anything. You know how I am. I try to sit in this seat and just let it flow, but I have to here.
You did a good job, Val.
Oh, thank you, Justin. Thank you. This show has been, oh my God, wonderful. And I'm just grateful to God that He is using this platform and using us to be a platform to be able to allow men and people to speak freely and to share their challenges and their pains and their ups and downs, because there are so many men and boys that are not comfortable talking or don't know that they can talk. It's okay to be able to share, because once you start to talk, that you start to break down walls. And so I'm just grateful to have this platform and to have you guys on this platform. I want to go around the room as I always do, and I hate when we get to the end of the show because it seems like it goes so fast. But I want you guys to share, uh, just in a few brief words, your experience on the Love and Victory show this morning, and what you got out of it, and then what you hope to have shared with someone else. We're going to kind of keep it short because we have another one show right behind ours. And I will be the last voice you hear. No, actually, Brother Carter will be, since it's his show today. I'm going to start with my team in the, I'll start with Heidi. And then I will go around the room. And actually, before I go around the room, I'm going to go to the gentlemen that are streaming in. I'll go with Justin, and then I'll go with why did your name
Leo.
why did his name just
Because you in my lane right now.
okay,
That's
I'm
why.
Because it's too good of a name to have in your
I
mouth all
know,
the time.
I
It's a
know.
mature moment.
I
can tell you.
it really was. So, Heidi, I will start with you and your experience on the show today, and what did you get out of it?
You done took the last 10 minutes
That's
to say
okay.
that.
I
so.
did. That's
Okay, I'll make it quick. I had a wonderful experience today, even though I was a little late. But
okay.
What I got out of today, everything will be okay. Everything will be okay.
There you go. Wow. There you go.
Right.
And of course, Diana.
Me personally, it's like, I think the most important thing that I got was kind of like forgiveness in a way, like forgiving our fathers and even our mothers if you had like a horrible experience, forgiving them, because nobody taught them how to be parents.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's really hard, especially when you're really angry at a parent. It's hard to actually say, like, I forgive you, because it's a lot to ask for.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how do I forgive you for all the trauma you gave me,
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you are human and you are not perfect and you are not God. And I have to forgive you somehow.
Wow. Jack?
I appreciate it. It was an honor and a privilege to be here. Thank you very much. And hopefully it was helpful to others. For me, what kept resonating and it didn't come out is I have two estranged children that haven't been talking to me for quite a while. So hopefully maybe someday that'll heal.
It will heal.
God bless you.
Wow.
Bless you.
We will keep you and your children lifted up in prayer. Justin?
The same lesson I always learn when I get to listen to other people talk about their challenges that they've overcome is that when we learn to love and accept and embrace ourselves, everything else falls into place.
Powerful.
Okay. And last but not least, well, you're not last. Why did
Leo.
Leo, what happened?
I don't know what's going on.
I don't know, Leo.
If you need a vacation,
Maybe I need my vacation. I need to come
to Turks and Caicos.
Yes, Leo.
But it's been beautiful hearing the journeys of Jack and Justin, and it gives me confidence. And the phrase that stands out a lot in my mind is trust your journey. We've heard the levels that Jack is at, the level where Justin is at. I'm like, Leo, you will get there.
That's right.
Patience and consistency, and accepting that there will be good and bad days. But because you guys were so transparent with what you were saying, it allowed me to know that I will get there one day.
Amen.
And that's been beautiful for me.
That's awesome.
Okay. And what? Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I get to talk? Oh my God. No. Well, again, thank you guys so much. I'm just so grateful that you guys accepted the invitation to be on the Love and Victory show. Speaking with Jack over the phone, I knew he was the perfect guest for today's segment. And I kind of felt bad that I didn't kind of really go into it with my husband, that he was a therapist and all of it. I kind of like to leave an element of surprise in here. That's just part of what I do. And then talking to Leo. When I had the opportunity to talk to Leo over the phone, I felt like he was one of my sons. And so he made it so easy to connect. And he was so open and transparent with his journey. And Leo, you're going to be doing some great things out there. Just keep it all in perspective. If I can leave you with one thing, know that your story is no different than someone else's story. It's just walking that journey that God has for you and keeping that compassion for others that you
Yes.
have. That is a natural gift. And then my Justin. What do I say about my Justin? Justin, you are an amazing person. I feel like we have known you for a lifetime. I'm grateful that you are a part of the Love and Victory show every first Saturday of the month. You're just so transparent. You're so profound. You're just a good person, and I'm just grateful for you. You are my brother from another mother, and just thank you for always being there. And to the team, you guys pulled it together. I thank you all so much. I couldn't do this show without each and every one of you all. Crystal, I need you to get well and get back. And Brother Carter, it's on to you. You're going
Well, I
to have
want,
the last word now.
you sure?
You can have it.
All right. I
You
want
know,
to.
he always has something smart to say. What do I do with him?
So I just want to thank Val, our host, for allowing me to believe and to think that I was hosting the show today. Hey, I have a pet peeve that I have this thing that I like. I always wanted to hear, "Son, I'm proud of you," growing up as a young
Yeah.
lad.
Yeah.
And so I have this pet peeve when I see men, because we're talking about the men today, men that are doing great things in their lives. And so I want to say to the men on the show today that I am proud of you all. Jack, Leo, Justin, keep on doing what you're doing, man. God bless you. We love you. Also want to say that on this show, since I've been on this show, I realized that I don't have it all together, and possibly we never will have it all together. Because every time we have a show, we identify different areas of our lives that we are having struggles with. So I'm gonna leave you guys with this note: just keep on getting up, man. Keep on believing in yourself. Keep on loving yourself and embracing yourself, and know that tomorrow is gonna be all right. There are brighter days are ahead. So continue.
Sorry, I hit the book. I'm
That's
sorry.
okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. This is the Love and Victory Show with Val. We are on every Saturday from 7 to 10 a.m. 7 to 10 a.m. every Saturday
Every
morning.
Saturday morning.
And thank you once more again for making me think that I was hosting the show today. But I'm going to let you have your last word because I know you have to.
It's okay. Thank you guys again. I appreciate you thinking that you were hosting the show. No, I'm just that's why we're such a great partner. But again, thank you guys for tuning in, and we look forward to you all every Saturday morning. Until then, tell them bye. Way, we love you guys. Bye bye. Thank you.